My son, Leo, sat there holding up a piece of paper, showing off a drawing he had just finished. It was a crude, simple sketch done in crayon, depicting a family of 3 holding hands. The father figure in the drawing didn't look like me, though. He had bright, short, blonde hair, exactly the same shade as Kyle's hair. Kyle was Elena's first love, the man she never quite got over. In the picture, this blonde man was standing bravely in front of the others, shielding the little boy behind him. Kyle, who was sitting right there in our living room, laughed softly and tried to brush it off. "Leo is just a kid," he said, looking around the room at the guests. "It's just a doodle. Don't take it out on him." Elena didn't say a word. She just sat there while our son quietly gripped her hand, looking at me with wide, fearful eyes before leaning toward her and whispering, "Kyle, Daddy is looking so scary right now." I looked at the scene in front of me, the 3 of them looking like a perfect, cohesive unit while I stood on the outside. In that moment, I decided to accept the advice the voice in my head, the interface, had been giving me for a while. I decided to use the points I had accumulated to finally leave this world. But before I could make my exit, the 2 of them suddenly started doing everything in their power to keep me here. Before I stepped into the void to leave forever, I glanced back and saw my son crying on the floor. I turned my head away. I told them that nobody could stop me now. When I had first seen that drawing Leo made, I felt like I had been frozen in a block of ice. My ears were ringing with a high-pitched buzz. The interface's mocking voice drifted through my mind, saying, "True to form, that little boy of yours." Nobody said anything for a long moment. The silence in the room was heavy, suffocating. It wasn't just because my son had drawn a family. It was because the man in the picture was undeniably Kyle. "Kyle, is my drawing not good?" Leo asked innocently, breaking the silence when no one else would speak. I felt a cold sensation spread through my chest. Kyle discreetly shifted his weight, positioning himself so that Leo was partially hidden behind him, acting as if I were some unpredictable monster ready to attack my own child. "Leo is little. He doesn't know any better," Kyle said, looking at me with a practiced look of apology. "It's just scribbling. Don't blame him. If you have to be mad, blame me." When Kyle said that, my son shrank back even further, his voice trembling as he said, "Kyle, he's really scary." I glanced over at Elena. As usual, she was acting like this situation had absolutely nothing to do with her. She looked even more indifferent than the random guests surrounding us. Finally, someone stepped up to break the unbearable tension. "The cake is here," a guest announced loudly. "Let's cut the cake." That got everyone talking again, and there was a murmur of agreement that we should move on to the birthday cake. The cake was brought to the table, and my son picked up the plastic knife to cut a piece. "Kyle, this is for you," Leo said. He skipped right past me, ignoring me completely, and handed the first slice to Kyle, who was standing right behind me. The next slice went to Elena. Kyle pretended to look a little uncomfortable, glancing my way with false modesty, then whispered something into my son's ear. Reluctantly, as if he were being forced to do chores, my son cut another piece and handed it to me. "Dad, have some cake." I could feel everyone's eyes on me. Their gazes felt like needles. It felt like I shouldn't have even been at my own son's birthday party. The interface's voice echoed in my mind again. "Leo is allergic to milk. You spent hours making this special milk-free cake just for him. Aren't you going to try it?" I mentally told the voice to shut up, but that didn't stop the stinging sensation in my chest. Even though the interface was just trying to provoke me, the reality of the situation was undeniable. Elena was staring at me now, looking annoyed that I hadn't taken the plate yet. Her brow furrowed in impatience. I took a deep breath. In the next moment, I reached out and slapped Leo's hand, knocking the plate of cake onto the floor with a wet splat. He was just a kid, so the shock hit him instantly. Tears sprang to his eyes, and his wails filled the room. I pushed down the churning emotions inside my gut and turned around to walk away. Everyone gets tired eventually. I just wanted a break. When I got back to the house, I started packing my things immediately. Maybe I couldn't take the money I had earned in this world with me, but I wasn't about to leave behind the personal items I had bought for the house over the years. I was about halfway done packing when there was a knock at the bedroom door. Elena's voice came from the hallway. "Mark, let's talk." I opened the door. I had to take a step back because the smell of alcohol on her breath was strong. Without saying a word, I turned back to my desk and pulled out the divorce papers I had asked my assistant to draw up a while ago. When she saw the documents, Elena looked confused for a second, but then her face settled back into that familiar mask of indifference. "Mark, stop it. You're divorcing me over what happened today? You're overreacting." She looked so incredibly unreasonable that I didn't even bother arguing. I just turned and signed my name on the agreement. "Look it over," I said calmly. "If you're okay with it, just sign. You can have custody of Leo. I just want the liquid assets." Elena rubbed her forehead, looking exhausted. "All right, fine. Tomorrow take the kid to the amusement park. Bond with him. He'll understand your intentions when he grows up." Bonding with my son. Listening to her say that, I let out a short, bitter laugh. Lost in thought, the painful memories came, drifting back. During my recovery from an injury years ago, the interface would always tell me, "They aren't your family. They are the source of your pain." I never answered it back then. I just held my little baby, singing lullabies to drown out the mechanical voice in my head. I had always been there for Leo. For 8 years, I was there every single moment he needed me. I'm his dad, and when he's confused, it's my job to show him the right path, even if that path goes against what he wants in the moment. And now this absentee mother had the nerve to tell me I should cater to my own son to build a relationship? It was ridiculous. Before Kyle showed up, Elena had actually been pretty nice to me. But every bit of that kindness vanished the second Kyle re-entered the picture. Even Leo, my own flesh and blood, got drawn to Kyle, just like his mom. He went from calling me daddy to acting more like Elena, cold at heart. Maybe only someone as sunny and fake as Kyle could warm them up. The interface chuckled in my ear. "What heart? Is it all frosty again?" I snapped back to reality. The interface never actually told me what my specific mission in this strange world was. All these years it just promised me on behalf of some main god that once my progress bar was full, I could go home. A week ago, it told me my progress was complete, and I could use my points to open a passage home. It wanted me to leave right then, but I declined. Even disregarding Elena, I still harbored some foolish fantasy about my son. We were related by blood, after all. But today, that fantasy was finally shattered. Seeing my silence, Elena grabbed the divorce papers and tossed them aside onto the desk. "Mark, if you want money, I'll have the assistant transfer it to you tomorrow." Realizing we couldn't have a proper conversation, I walked over and slammed the door shut. I might as well focus on packing. The papers could always be signed later. The interface grumbled while it helped me magically stuff my things into my inventory space. "You've got at most a month to leave." I paused, nodded, and continued packing. The interface let out a sarcastic laugh. "You're still hesitating? Haven't you learned your lesson?" I was just about to retort when suddenly everything went dark. When I opened my eyes, I wasn't in my room anymore. I saw Leo asleep. In my anger earlier, I hadn't realized Leo hadn't gone back with Elena. But where was this place? I was confused. Suddenly, I saw Kyle's face. "Leo, how about we have a glass of milk before bed?" Kyle asked. As I watched Leo take the glass, I panicked. I wanted to stop him immediately. He is deathly allergic to milk. How could he drink it? But just as I took a step forward, an invisible barrier blocked me. It looked like another trick from the interface to show me something. I was anxious, but then I thought my worry was unnecessary. Leo knows he can't drink milk. He wouldn't do it, but then, in the very next second, he downed the glass in one gulp. "Kyle, you're so nice," Leo said, wiping his mouth. "Dad never lets me drink milk. Dad's never been this thoughtful." My son's voice resonated clearly because I was standing so close. I didn't know what to say. I stood there, frozen in place. Then, in a blink, the interface transported me back to my room. I sat on the floor, staring off into space, until Elena knocked hard on my door. That's when I realized what I had just seen in the vision had actually already happened in reality. "Mark! Kyle called me!" Elena shouted through the door. "Leo is having an allergic reaction!" I snapped back to reality, trembling as I got up. Just as I touched the door handle, my tone turned cold. "If he's having an allergic reaction, take him to the hospital." Am I a doctor? No one made a peep outside the door. I could imagine Elena's shocked expression. This time she didn't linger long. Maybe she really was worried about Leo. The next sound I heard was her car engine starting and driving away. I felt drained. The interface advised me to take a shower and sleep early. Half-hearted, I eventually gave in to my body's clock, and sleep overcame me. The next morning, as soon as I woke up, I noticed a dozen unread messages on my phone, mostly from Elena's assistant. Reading them, I oddly felt relieved. "Sir, here's the revised divorce agreement. Elena said she's already signed it. Just waiting for you." Not wasting any time, I washed up and started reviewing the new divorce agreement. Leo's custody stayed with Elena, and the other contents were pretty much the same as my earlier draft. Except for the part about asset division, Elena only allocated me $50 million. I cursed under my breath. Real stingy. But remembering what the interface said about needing to leave, I didn't hesitate. I agreed to sign. The assistant was quick. The contract was delivered to me within half an hour. After I signed, the assistant glanced at their phone, looking a bit troubled, but said, "Sir, the little master has woken up in the hospital." This was clearly a nugget of information Elena intended for the assistant to leak to me. I responded flatly, grabbed my suitcase, and left the house. The assistant already had a car ready to pick me up. Looking down, I felt a strange heaviness in my chest. Why was Elena so keen to inform me about Leo waking up? She was banking on the idea that once I heard about him, I'd rush over. I smirked. If I didn't know better, I might have gone. But I'd just witnessed their happy family scene in that vision. Shortly after, my bank account showed a transfer of $50 million. It wasn't much for Elena, really. It's not like she couldn't spare more. She just wanted to push me to come back to her for money eventually. It's how things went every time we argued. Elena would manufacture chances, forcing me to communicate with her, basically waiting for me to make the first move. But times had changed. The assistant arranged things well. I already had a new place set up. Moving in, I immediately began prepping for the charity foundation I wanted to start. I deliberately avoided thinking about my old family and focused entirely on my work, cutting off any news from them. But just when I thought Elena was handling things cleanly, I received a message. "Your son is sick and asking for you." Attached was a photo of Leo in the hospital, his face flushed with fever. He looked pitiful. I ignored it. There was an investor meet I needed to attend that night. Even if I had time, I wouldn't have gone. At the event, I hadn't even fully entered the hall before recognizing two familiar figures. "Daddy!" Leo rushed toward me. Elena stood not far off, seemingly convinced I'd catch our child. Instead, I shifted my body slightly to the side. A painful thud followed as Leo hit the ground hard. I calmly took a guest's arm and walked away. Elena's face turned dark. Leo's eyes filled with tears, his fever-reddened face turning even redder from the crying. Elena and I silently faced off until a waiter stepped in, helping Leo up. Everyone around could see what just transpired, but whispers were all I heard as everyone pretended not to notice the drama. I had no clue why Elena and Leo showed up here, but they weren't going to derail my plans. Over the years, I ran a small entertainment company. Though not massive, it was profitable. I had sold it recently and poured the money into this foundation. As the chief organizer, thanks to Elena's unintended opportunity during the fundraiser, she unknowingly contributed $2 million to the pot. As for transforming funds into supplies for remote areas, I left that to my most trusted assistant to handle. Before leaving, the assistant clung to my leg as if we were having a heartfelt farewell. Only after I reassured him multiple times of my well-being did he reluctantly leave. Watching him go, I felt a bit sentimental. Over the past decade, he was the one person I interacted with the most. It was a little hard parting with him. With that thought, I sent a large bonus his way. The interface reminded me I had a mere week left in this world. I wasn't going to waste it. So, through a connection from last time, I visited a high-end bar. Just as things were getting lively, the door burst open, followed by blinding camera flashes. Kyle stood behind several photographers, a sly grin on his face. You'd think I'd panic, but I saw the camera. I casually put my arm around the model standing next to me and struck a pose that looked like it was straight out of a magazine. With everyone else frozen in shock, I quickly made my way out of the room. On the way out, I casually punched Kyle, who was standing behind the door. Kyle was stunned, his face full of disbelief. I've kept up appearances of being a gentleman over the years, but the truth is, I used to be just a crazy worker. Be back in my old world. Maybe it's because I haven't been drunk in a long time, but today, getting drunk in a bar brought back my old self. Are you crazy? That punch almost made Kyle lose his cool. I thought his tricks were over, but just as I was about to speak, Elena appeared behind Kyle with Leo in tow. Elena's lips were a straight line, silent, but I knew her well enough to see she was holding back anger. Even Leo, who usually stood by Kyle, didn't rush over this time. He simply mumbled, "Dad. Mark, I didn't mean it. I'm sorry." Leo's eyes were immediately filled with concern. Looking at the group, a thought popped into my head. If you don't care, then words and actions meant to hurt you can't penetrate your defenses. I didn't care about what they thought anymore. Recently, I was persistent with the interface and finally got it to reveal what my quest actually was. I realized it feeds on my negative emotions to gain energy. I could have guessed what the task was, but hearing it out loud was shocking. Over a decade, I needed to collect 3,000 incidences of negative emotions influenced by external forces to complete the task. No wonder the interface didn't want to tell me the content back when I first arrived. I'd have thought I could never go back if I saw that task. Yeah, at that time, who would have thought I'd make it through all this? In my past life, I died suddenly from exhaustion. The interface gave me a new life. It uses me for some energy, which makes sense, and from a non-human point of view, I shouldn't hate Elena, Kyle, or Leo. They helped me complete most of my tasks, But even if I don't hate them, I'm not forgiving them either. I'm done with nostalgia. I remember when I first met Kyle. His conversational skills were charming until the glass of wine I handed him ended up accidentally spilled all over himself to make me look bad. Back then, I trusted Elena a lot and believed she could see through any cheap trick. But from that, I learned you can't wake someone pretending to be asleep. These days, the interface promised that once I return, it would give me a healthy body, some money, and even erase my memory. I'm not against the money and health, but I refuse to have my memory wiped. This experience is valuable. I need to move on and learn from it, not forget and repeat the same mistakes. I took a couple of steps forward and accidentally stepped on Kyle's hand. He let out a scream, and Elena quickly rushed over. But she didn't check on Kyle first. She looked at me with concern. I spat out a few cold words, and Elena relaxed her grip right away. "Better late than never," I said slowly. The last woman companion I had was quite perceptive. She held me as I walked out. I finally remembered her name, Judy. A great name. Laughing, I left with her. Judy saw me home and then left. I washed up quickly and collapsed on the couch, instantly falling asleep. The next morning, just as I expected, Kyle posted photos of me with models at the karaoke spot online. I was quite pleased to see that there were no ugly photos trending. But my assistant, who had just flown back, was upset, rushing to get the trending topic removed. I couldn't care less. Then the interface's voice came, and I froze. "What?" I asked, questioning my hearing after the system spoke. "Yeah, I didn't expect it either. You'll just have to wait," the interface said apologetically. I was kind of losing it. Apparently, part of the energy needed to activate the space was still missing, and I had to wait longer. When I asked how long, I almost lost it. "A year," said the interface. I was seething. "Is there no other way?" I used every bit of patience to ask. The interface finally spoke hesitantly. "There is, but it'll be a bit tough on you." I told it to spit it out. I had to. Otherwise, I was going to be stuck here for a year, likely ending up back as a worker bee with my current funds. "You need more contact with the child of the world. Sacrifice a bit, and I promise we'll be out in a week tops." I raised an eyebrow. "You mean I should just go endure another week of this crap?" The interface quickly replied, No, just contact will do." Reluctantly, I took Elena off the blacklist. After letting my assistant handle the trending topic, I saw a message from Elena. She was silent for a bit, then started typing. "Can we meet? Just give me some time." I was about to decline this invitation, but remembering my way back home, I agreed. On the way to the restaurant, my assistant mentioned that before he could do anything about the trending content, someone else had already bought it out to suppress it. I didn't need much brain power to guess who it was. But I was surprised when I got to the restaurant. As soon as I sat down, Elena apologized first thing. "I'm sorry, didn't mean to cause you trouble," she started. She was unusually chatty, and I caught on to what she was getting at. Turns out Kyle had lied about needing a camera for a friend's birthday and ended up bringing Elena and Leo along, as well as the videographer. They snapped photos of me because Kyle had mistaken the room and stumbled upon me unintentionally. The photographer had released the photos out of spite after failing to blackmail Kyle for money. I wasn't paying much attention. Once she finished talking, I finally said, "Do you believe it?" Clearly, Elena was caught off guard by my question. I chuckled knowingly, interrupting her as she tried to explain. "Enough. I understand. You don't need to continue." Seeing me focus solely on eating, Elena's face showed rare hints of nervousness. I was surprised by her expression, since she'd only ever shown it for Kyle before. But surprise was all I could feel. The old me didn't care about these things anymore. I wouldn't beg for someone's love. Tomorrow, Leo's school is having a parent-child sports day. Want to go? Together? Elena looked at my expression and asked cautiously. Maybe because I was close to going back home, I was in a decent mood, and nodded. Sure. What time? After agreeing on a time, Elena offered to drive me back. I turned her down. The interface said I'd maxed out my energy level from her for today. The interface sighed in my head. Use and discard. I chuckled, and noticing my assistant's curious look, told him to drive us to grab a late-night snack. I've never really been into those skimpy portions at Western restaurants, yet Elena always picks them when we meet up. The next morning, when I got to Leo's preschool, Elena and he had been waiting for me at the entrance for quite a while. Seeing me, Elena handed me a shirt, a matching outfit the preschool required. I nodded, didn't say much, and went to change. When I came back, Elena had the shirt on too, with a big smiling flower printed on the chest. It really clashed with her usual professional vibe. Elena awkwardly scratched her head, then led me to Leo's class. First up was a relay race. Though Elena sits in an office most of the time, she's active and was way ahead of the other parents. But when it was Leo's turn, he stumbled and fell flat on his face. He walked toward me looking all pouty, and I took the first aid kit to patch him up. "Dad," Leo suddenly said. I looked up at the face that was a spitting image of Elena's. Suppressing the last bit of emotion swirling inside me, I stayed silent. "Don't leave me," he whispered, his words barely audible. As a dad who heard his first babbles, how could I not understand? Still, I pretended I didn't hear, and continued to tend to his wound. Elena heard the commotion and rushed over. Just as she was about to speak, another voice piped up behind her. "Leo, how'd you get hurt?" Seeing Kyle show up unexpectedly, I immediately looked at Elena. Elena looked a bit awkward. "I just offhandedly mentioned Leo's sports day," she said. Kyle was also wearing that silly flower print top. When the teacher came over, she first looked at him. "Leo's dad, is he all right?" At these words, everyone fell silent. Leo kept a straight face. "Teacher, this is my dad," Leo said, tugging at me as he spoke. The teacher looked a bit taken aback, then slightly embarrassed. It didn't faze me. This kind of mix-up was routine. I stopped caring long ago. Leo used to get picked up by the family driver, or Kyle, so at some point Kyle became Dad in the teacher's eyes. Whenever he occasionally grabbed Leo, Kyle's embarrassment was evident. But before he could say anything, Elena suddenly snapped. "Why are you here at an event like this?" It was rare for Elena to lose her temper. Kyle was stunned. "Sorry, Elena. I just hadn't seen Leo in a while. Thought I'd drop by." Seeing Elena's anger fade so quickly, I stood by, finding it all pretty amusing. "Fine, you head back. I'll bring Leo over sometime," Elena said, still stern, but obviously softening. Catching my eye on the whole scene, she seemed uneasy. "Mark," Elena said, mouth open but ultimately saying nothing. At the sports field, the next activity was a parent-child ball toss, where teamwork was the goal. Leo's leg was hurt, so the teacher didn't want us to participate. But he insisted. "I can do it." And Elena was fine with it, so the teacher didn't stop us. The basket was too high for kids. The rules had dads tossing and kids fetching. Lost in thought, Leo handed me a ball. "Dad, here you go." In the light-hearted chaos, Leo and I were a subdued pair. Until suddenly, I nailed a three-pointer. Everyone turned to look, and some kids even came over, inquisitive. I kept on shooting, rarely missing. Back in middle school, with nobody watching, I spent hours shooting hoops downstairs, and it showed. With each compliment, Leo's little face flushed scarlet. "Leo, your dad's amazing," a sweet voice of a little girl chimed in. On seeing her, Leo's cheeks turned even rosier. "Kids' likes are just that simple, I guess. No doubt we won this event." Leo held on to the small medal, eyes sparkling at me, but the gaze he met was one I no longer had from the past. Elena invited me to dinner, but I declined again. In the days following, we met every day, and once the interface was done with its energy absorbance, I knew I'd make my exit. Today we planned to meet at the amusement park with Leo tagging along. Leo was careful beside us. Spotting a dad lifting his kid nearby, he sneakily glanced at me, but I wasn't buying it. I was busy on my phone. I had won a charity award because of setting up the foundation earlier. I just played around in the morning and found an excuse to leave the park. The interface in my mind told me I had enough energy and could head back today. I was super happy, but decided to stick around for the evening party before leaving. At the venue, I stepped onto the award stage. My partner was Judy, the same as last time. Out of everyone, spending time with her was the most comfortable for me. There were quite a few people in the crowd, but Elena and Leo stood out right at the front, hard to ignore. Elena hadn't noticed Judy yet. She was smiling lightly, looking genuinely happy for me. Leo appeared starstruck, his eyes practically sparkling. I glanced at them and looked away. There were just 2 more people celebrating for me. Tonight was my night. I spoke freely on stage, sharing my acceptance speech. I moved even myself. At the end, with a round of applause, I left the stage, stepping away from my highlight moment towards something greater. With one last look at the venue, the interface told me it had opened a path for me by the lake. I raised an eyebrow. "Wasn't it like jumping into the river?" The interface gave a mysterious smile. "A person disappearing into thin air needs to make sense, right?" I drove myself to the lake without any assistant. The moon was bright, reflecting beautifully on the suds. Water. Then 2 shouts interrupted from behind. They got out of the car. Turns out they had been following me all along. They couldn't see the pathway on the lake, just me at the shore, seemingly about to end it all. I started to get the interface's intent. "Mark, please come back," Elena shouted. "I won't bother you anymore, just come back." Elena's voice cracked in despair, all her elegance gone. I barely looked at her. What didn't I know? All those coincidences, the injuries, just Elena's manipulations? I needed to use her too. No debt here, just mutually beneficial. Leo, being younger, didn't grasp the gravity of death. And I had always warned him against the dangerous shores. Even now, my usually composed son was panicking. He cried pitifully, running to me. "Dad, don't go!" Compared to past staged falls, this time he was genuinely hurt. His delicate skin scraped, bleeding from the ground. Yet he got up running. "Dad, don't leave me!" I calmly walked into the lake, water up to my calves, facing the glowing path ahead. I turned back to see Leo nearing the lake's edge. "Go home," I told him. "I'm going home. No one can stop me." Then, decisively, I turned and entered that space. From their view, I vanished beneath the water. Moments before the space closed, the frantic cries seemed to still pierce through. When I opened my eyes, I was home. My computer screen was still bright, but I felt no exhaustion at all. I called for the interface in my mind, but there was no response. It was like it never happened. Then, a $2 billion transfer hit my bank account. Just when I was feeling pleasantly surprised, the interface's weak voice chimed in. "Phew, Didn't know it was your stuff eating up all my energy. The interface urged me to buy a house quickly so it could unload everything from the inventory space. Suddenly energized, I quit my job in the middle of a call about submitting a proposal. Days passed as I looked for a house, bought it, and got all the necessary stuff. I was worn out. Suddenly, I missed having an assistant. The interface suggested I could find a new one. I was about to declare that no one could replace my old one when I saw his name on the first resume. I was speechless. The interface quickly explained, "It's not hard to pull a person from that little world." I didn't speak. Sensing my thoughts, the interface added, "Didn't expect Elena's deep feelings for you. After you left, she drank by that lake every day, got drunk and accidentally fell in. If not for her, a child of destiny passing, it wouldn't have been easy to pull someone back." I nodded, needing a moment with the past before I could fully process. The interface went on. "And predictably, Leo will grow to be the new world's child. He's now with the family being raised." I raised an eyebrow, wondering about the next person to face this string of misfortunes. A father dying young, a mother lost to drink, and a child bearing trauma. I shuddered.